Welcome everyone, I am Blake from Bourbonr. This is the Bourbonr Live Review. Tonight I'm reviewing two special rye whiskeys. It is two barrels that I selected from Driftless Glen. If you're not familiar with Driftless Glen Distillery, they're up in Baraboo, Wisconsin. And so craft distillery, but they're on that craft distilling side where they're actually putting out a lot of product. So we'll kind of just dive straight into what they're doing. So this is the rye whiskey. Their mash bill is 75% rye, 25% malted barley. But they're running out of column still. They have a pot and column still, and I don't remember the exact number, but they have something like 3,000 barrels sitting in inventory, and they're planning on cranking that up. I think she said maybe double over the next couple of years. They can distill up to about 2,000 barrels a year right now with the current setup. So it's one of those distillers, it fits in that mid-range. We still don't have a good name for the mid-major distilleries. They're not Heaven Hill, but then they're not, your local guy who can only produce about a barrel or two a day. So definitely on a good scale. Jonathan jumped in, said they did a wood guy pick, and I've had a couple other picks. We did, we did two single barrel picks, and then we did what we called the marriage, the rye marriage. It was called First Marriage, where we blended two barrels together. So we've already done a bourbon pick and a rye pick from Seal Box, and those went fast. So the other thing that's pretty interesting about Driftless Glen is they are currently most of what's on the market's a smaller barrel, so between 25 and 30 gallon barrels. They do have a lot of they've gone solely now to 53 gallons, but I've tasted some of the 53 gallons. They're at younger age, so it's kind of tough to tell, but wasn't as impressed with the 53 gallons just yet. But man, these smaller barrels, we call them mid-sized barrels, the 25 and the 30 gallon were really impressive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the 25 gallon first. This is barrel 161, and it clocked in at just about 120 proof in just under 5 years. So I think it was like 4 years and 9 months. And so these barrels, or these bottles from the barrels, will be available on Sealbox tomorrow. Same deal as last time. They'll go on sale at noon. I'll send out an email. I'll also post it in the Bourbonr group. So if you're looking for a bottle, the good news is, maybe they won't sell out in 40 minutes, but the bad news is there's not a ton of bottles. I think one of them had 120 one of the barrels had 120 bottles in it, and then the other one had like 96. So not huge bottle counts, but hopefully there'll be enough where everyone doesn't have to be there waiting. I mean, obviously I don't mind it if they go fast, but for everybody to get what they want, hopefully there's enough to go around. If not, we may have some reserves left in the tank. So like I said, 4 years, 8 months, 25 gallon barrel. This is barrel 161, and it's 120 proof. Ryan, thank you for coming down in my sweater. I was going to change after work. I was like, you know what? I'm going fancy tonight. I'm reviewing, very fancy rye whiskey. So we're sticking with the sweater. It's cold in Florida. Some would call it freezing, around the 50s. But so initially this is just, it's just a great sweetness to it. There's fruitiness to it. It's a little bit of cinnamon. Yeah, so just, man, so the really interesting thing about these is it just has such a great fruitiness, a little bit of melon, and I was looking up the exact proof on these really quick while I talk, but just a lot going on. So just a ton of baking spice. I get the cloves, the cinnamon, the nutmeg. There's some dry tannins in there, but it's not over oaked. I think 4 years, 8 months in a smaller barrel, but up in Wisconsin is much different than if it were down in even Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's a much different climate, but definitely if you get too much heat and during the year, you start to pull out a lot more tannins. But yeah, a little black pepper. The finish is pretty medium, but I kind of get like a what's the like a Chinese five spice. So you where you have the cinnamon and all that in there, and there's some nice fruitiness. It's more mellow on the finish. You know, the proof, it definitely shows on the finish a little bit, but not really on the palate. Like the palate's very viscous. It has a good mouth feel to it. There's sweetness up front, but man, it's just that spice bomb as you start to drink through it. Yeah, it no marzipan just yet. I'm not sure. I still don't know if I understand what marzipan is, but Fred, I think will give me some at some point. But that's really tasty. So the great thing I loved about picking a barrel with Driftless Glen is they'll overload you with samples, and they're super easy to work with. So I think they sent for this one, I think it was 16 samples that I got. So what I did, kind of my whole process was 16 is way too many to try at one time. I broke it out, and I think I did like six, six, and four, and was kind of over 3 days, and then kind of did a bracket system of like, all right, well, I'm gonna move these forward. Then I took another six and tasted through them. Basically, I got down to four and had a few other people jump in. It's like, tell me what you think about these. Did tell them what it was. Obviously they could tell it was a barrel sample, but these two just really, really stuck out. And Driftless Glen is really fast to work with. If you do private barrels, you're probably used to the whole hurry up and wait scenario. There's some you may be waiting 8 months for to get it in. They're like, oh, okay, that's the one you picked. All right, you want us to bottle it tomorrow or Monday, or okay, we'll send it to you. And it's just like boom, boom, boom. So that is always appreciated in my world. Whenever I'm tasting samples, I'm like, yeah, I want to get it in pretty quick. So yeah, that's good. So this is the next barrel. So it's a 30-gallon barrel. This is barrel 265. And it is, I'm sorry, I had that backwards on the age. So barrel 161 is actually 4 years and 9 months. And then barrel 265 is 4 years and 8 months. So if you see it tomorrow, you want to pick one over the other. The shorter barrel, so 161 is the older, which, based on barrel numbers, you can probably figure that out. So it's also right at about 120 proof, 30 gallons, and then 4 years and 8 months. Go a little heavier on the pour there. All right. Yeah, so this one, it's just heavy fruit. So it's like raspberries, a little bit of green apple, but like dark cherries. Yeah, it's almost like a candied apple, because there's a little bit of that fruity note, a little brightness, but then like peppery cinnamon, and it's candied, it's sweet. This, I feel like you're always a little more you play favorites with the barrels you pick out, but I'm ready to throw this barrel in a lot of different blind samples, because it's I don't think you'd ever pick up that it was in a 30-gallon barrel. And 30 gallons is pretty big, so that it doesn't play a huge role, but it's just so good. Yeah. A little bit of mint on the finish, but peppery, a lot of sweetness, a lot of fruit, and then it's almost like syrupy. Like there's just a caramel kind of texture to it. So really good. I mean, it's great to see these craft distilleries and mid major distilleries produced great products, you know. So if this is one you're not familiar with, I definitely, I would definitely, you know, become more acquainted with them. Like I said, the barrels will be going on sale at noon tomorrow on Sealbox. I'll post the link here as well as send out an email. But yeah, really good stuff, which they did. So the head distiller at Driftless Glen is the former distiller from Smooth Ambler. So, you know, it's not just a distillery that just popped up overnight, and you know they're producing a lot of really good whiskey. Kyle, a quick question on the 51 Ryes. Is that the mash bill percentage, or is that the larger barrels? Wait for the you know, it's nothing like having a comment conversation, but yeah, it's man, their rye is really good, and I have to give. Well, there's a few people. I think Jason Goldberg, they did a barrel pick of this. I know Jonathan Gorab and the other guys, they did a barrel of this, I believe, and then Reed Bechtel and the 1789B guys, they've done a barrel. So I'm definitely not the first to the party, but then after tasting it, it's like, man, I want to be, you know, you want to be a cheerleader, but or for people who are doing really good stuff. But all right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off here. So thank you all for joining me. And yeah, it's always fun to do these reviews and jump on. So I appreciate everybody coming in, commenting, and listening to me while I drink.